Hey, welcome everyone. This is Sean here, and today we're continuing our theme this week on security. And today we're going to talk about edge security, and primarily we're going to be talking about the firewall. So hang on. All right, so welcome back. And in security, it's like an onion. It's lots of layers. And one of the first ones, and what we here at NSN feel is one of the most important ones, is the firewall, and what we refer to as a big umbrella. It's called edge security. And really, when you think about a network, and if you take a look at this little diagram here for a second, um, you see there we have the internet on the outside, and then you got this firewall. And that everything back behind that firewall is your internal network and your resources, whether that's your users sitting on desktops or laptops, whether they're connected to Wi-Fi on mobile devices, whatever those may be. Those are behind the firewall, and that line there that you see in blue kind of defines the edge of the network, and that's the firewall's job, is to really to protect that. So um, one of the critical things when we look at those is the different types of services and stuff that we use and think about with relating to the firewall. So that edge security, it's your first line of defense in everything that you do, because all of your traffic and stuff that you access comes in through that firewall and goes out through that firewall. So it's a really critical, important piece of your security stack. So, and what we typically look for is what they call as a next generation firewall. And what that means is way back, I say way back, like a number of years ago, decade so, or a little bit more than that, firewalls were pretty simple. They did a few things. They kind of kept ports out and allowed traffic out, and you could set rules to let certain kind of traffic in. They didn't do a whole lot of inspection of the type of data that came in. And then people wanted, well, I want to block certain websites and I don't want people going certain things. And so you subscribe to a different service that did content filtering, and that was another device on your network. And then you wanted to do antivirus, and that was another device on your network that had to manage that. And firewall manufacturers figured out that, hey, most, and particularly in the SMB space, really wanted one appliance to handle all this. And that is what we refer to as, and a lot in the industry refer to as, a next generation firewall. And what it does is it layers on, here's the basic router stuff that it does. It also does some of the basic firewall tasks by keeping stuff out and allowing certain things in. But then it starts laying on additional security services. And one of the first of those is a web filter. And a web filter really is a content filter. And some of them do it based off of content types, categorizing them. Hey, we don't want to allow pornography on our to be viewed on our network for a lot of good reasons. And there's legal reasons. Hey, we protect you, and that's one of the things that its content filter can do. Help with productivity. I only want to allow Facebook to be used between 11 and 1 o'clock because that's when my staff takes lunch, and I really don't want them messing with it throughout the other parts of the day. Or, hey, all my marketing team members, they can use Facebook because they're interacting with our customers. But maybe some of our other staff internally, I really don't want them messing with Facebook because it ends up being a time waster, or Instagram, or whatever the different tools and things out there on the internet that you decide as a business owner. I really don't want staff interacting with. And you can schedule those and assign those to individuals. So the web filter has a lot of great uses for it, even blocking access to nefarious websites, whether it's hacking websites or proxy avoidance. And some of those terms I know don't mean much to many outside of the IT world, but they're an important tool in your security stack to make sure that you do. So another piece of that is one of our critical pieces that we always make sure is on there is what we call gateway antivirus. And gateway antivirus does what antivirus does on desktops and servers, and that is protect those resources from viruses and malware, ransomware. But the most critical piece of why we want that on the firewall and on the edge security is it's the first line. So every traffic, remember what I said earlier, coming in or going out is going to hit through that firewall. And the gateway antivirus service actually goes through and monitors and manages that and blocks those different files from actually getting into your network. So it's like having a security guard at the door that actually checks everyone's ID and scans them, checks them, and makes sure that, hey, they don't have anything bad when they come in to the network. So that's one of the other critical important parts. Another piece is what we call an intrusion prevention service. And what that IPS is a name for is it inspects all network traffic coming in and going out to make sure that there's no malware packets hidden and stuff inside of it. There's lots of different things. Earlier this year, we saw the Log4j breach. We saw there's another one called a SQL injection. And again, I know those are technical terms. It's not really important, but what it is it allows, if there's weaknesses on applications or servers or things internally, and they're not patched, the IPS can actually help prevent those by looking at the network traffic, figuring out, hey, this isn't the kind of stuff that's supposed to come in. So it also helps with known vulnerabilities and even zero-day threats. And that's a super important thing. So let's talk just a second about what a zero-day threat is that's a threat that's come out that it's not been known before, and now it's been exposed. And that's really 0 day. There's been no time for anyone really to figure out how to resolve that. And that's what we often call a 0 day threat. But that's one of the jobs of IPS is to check that. Another important part of the security stack inside those next generation firewalls is what we call DLP, or data loss prevention. And what that is staff on the inside may say, hey, someone needs our credit card information. So I'm going to email our credit card or a social security number. And the firewall actually looks at it and goes, no, can't do that. And actually stops that from going out. And that's a super critical piece, is because sometimes if someone shares a file that has credit card information in it, or has social security, personal identifiable information, and you really don't want that going out because of the risk that expose you and just the legality and the bad. I don't want to share credit card information via plain text or even over secure data. And so it helps by setting up different rules and things to do that, to alleviate some of those issues. So, a next generation firewall, the edge security, is an absolutely critical part of every business, regardless of your size, particularly in the SMB, which is the market we play in. And again, I don't know if I've ever mentioned it. We define SMB, the small medium business market, for us as anyone under 100 PCs. And those businesses have lots of people that are growing, and they're trying to figure out, how do we keep moving and keep their data secure? And the edge security is really the first layer of that whole piece. So hope you found some of that useful. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about additional pieces of security. We're going to layer on and talk about email security. And then later this week, we're going to talk about password management, and even some security training options. And so look forward to seeing you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.